What's cracking, guys? I'm back with another video. In late 1992, I took a job at NGK Spark Plugs. The NGK USA headquarters was right across the street from Saleen Mustangs. That was the Saleen's headquarters. Now, at the time, I had recently purchased a 1993 Mustang GT. It was brand new, bought it off the lot in 1992. I already had the complete custom bolt-ons on the cars, like the heads, the intake. The car was set up for drag racing initially, but it became my daily driver. After a while, of course, I got bored, so I added a Vortex supercharger. But after blowing a head gasket, I sent the car across the street to fix that. They O-ringed the motor and beefed up the fuel system with the bigger lines, bigger injectors and pumps. And it was working fine for quite a while. In fact, I took it to Palmdale. As you can guess though, as fast as I was, I got bored again. But at the time, the car was running 10.9 at Palmdale. It was still not fast for me, so when the car broke again, I was really pissed. I took it back to Saleen. He said, all right, we're gonna get rid of this setup with these Hypertech pistons and all that stuff. We're gonna bore it out to the 306 and we'll get it fixed for you. And I drove it around for a little while, but then it broke again. So I built a 347 stroker using Coast high performance parts and twisted wedge heads. I wanted to be fast. Each time we rebuilt the engine, Saleen's techs handled the removal and installation of the motor. I got to know Steve Saleen, the owner, pretty well enough that he tossed me the keys to one of his white S351 Mustang convertibles for their fabulous Ford Forever car show in Orange County. That was a nice gesture on his part. The Saleen cars made a great impression on me back then. Fast forward to 2002, I had moved on to Miami to work on 2Fast and Furious, and I was about to get reacquainted with Steve Saleen. All that right after this message from my sponsor. Hey guys, I have a new sponsor. It's Fan Home. So about a year ago, I was contacted by a company that was creating a replica of my movie Skyline, the GTR. They asked me if I had any pictures, and I said, oh yes, I do. What do you need? We'd like to get those pictures. Okay, so I sent them everything. And when I learned that this car was going to be produced in 1/8 scale, I was super excited. Usually I only collect 1/18 scale cars, they're about this big. This car is about this big. At that scale, every detail is gonna show. Even as a kid of 8 years old, I was already building models, starting with cars, and I got into airplanes, and now warships. The manufacturer was kind enough to send me the completed prototype. I was so impressed with the finished product. I immediately subscribed for myself. I didn't care if I get one free or whatever, I'm gonna pay for it. The quality is amazing. It's made mostly of metal. Even the wheels are made from metal. They faithfully replicated the tiniest little details, things like the veil side turbo oil fill cap, the carbon Kevlar airbox from Group N, and the Nismo titanium strut tower bar, the massive StopTech brakes calipers, the aftermarket gauges that we put in the car. You can read the instrument cluster. All of the lights work, even the underglow from the movie. All the external lights work as they do in the real car. It even makes engine sounds. To get yours, you need to go to this website and sign up now. Don't wait. The first run is already sold out, but they just announced that they're gonna take reservations for the second run. Don't wait. If you miss it, you're never gonna get another chance. Every month, they're gonna send the next stage delivered to your door with the instructions and everything, and every month, you'll get a package. So stop what you're doing and reserve your allocation now. Do it now, or you're gonna miss out. It was 2002 and 2Fast 2Furious was in production down there in Florida. We had most of the cars that we needed, and we had a wonderful giant warehouse in which we could build it, modify it, do everything we do, fix it, all that kind of stuff. We had most of the cars we needed. However, some changes came down from the top. And when we looked over the changes, we said, uh-oh, we're gonna be suddenly short of some cars. This is not gonna work. It turns out that the writers wanted to spice up a certain scene. Initially, it was just a grab ass on the turnpike. In the first script, as you can see here, this scene was designated the race to the keys as in the Florida Keys. It was also called the audition. It was also called the I-95 scene. The scene was written to be basically a race through traffic on the turnpike or freeway to retrieve something for Carter Verone. You remember that? He was the villain in this movie, right? But after a reread, the grab-ass sequence were deemed to be too boring. The next revision was a full-blown Carmageddon scene, and that changed everything very quickly. Why? We couldn't put actors in those cars because it's all stunts. It's not just driving down the freeway anymore. So they put in new characters in there. Felix, who was a stuntman, was driving the Dodge Viper. Osborne was driving the Corvette. A character called Max was driving the E36 wide body for Hackett's car. My boss, Ted Mosier, scored some Shelby Cobra kit cars. But after some discussion with the stunt team, it was decided that having a car with no top and no roll cage is not ideal. For one, we didn't want to see the actor's face. Second, to make the car safe for the stuntman, we would have to build a very elaborate roll cage, and we just didn't have the time. These cars were basically useless now, so there was an urgent meeting that we set up. We needed to replace the Shelby Cobras. How did we replace it? We already had a vintage Camaro. We already had a vintage Challenger. We needed to find something else. So I took a walk in the picture car warehouse with some of the guys. Back in 2002, the current Camaro was on its last legs. Dodge had nothing new except for the Viper, but we already had a Viper in the lineup. So what are we going to do? I was walking by one of the RX-7s, which was getting a tune-up and a safety check. I saw two NGK spark plug boxes on the hood, and it sparked in my head. I remembered my time work across the street from Saleen. So it came to me that maybe Steve Saleen might help us. So I pulled Ted Moser aside and made the suggestion. Turned out that Ted Moser already knew Steve as well. I felt good about this recommendation. The Mustang at the time was very popular, especially in the street racing camp, and were natural enemies of the Japanese cars. Maybe it'll work. At that time, Saleen had an illustrious racing career spanning over 2 decades, and I loved what he was doing with the company and the cars. So my boss, Ted Moser, placed a call to Steve Saleen personally, and he explained how the car would be used in the film. Ted told him that they're going to drop the car under a dump truck. He said, it's not going to be a real Saleen, it's going to be a replica. Ted then handed me the phone. I told him that his car and his logos would get screen time. After Ted Moser got back on the phone, he told Steve that everything would be in a legal contract. Steve finally agreed to provide a single Saleen S281 Mustang, but only if we used the red one. It was painted Liz Stick red, which was named after his wife. Oh yeah, sure, no problem, we'll do it. Of course, we needed multiple Mustangs to use as stunt cars. Why? Because now these cars are not playing grab pass. I'm afraid we're gonna crash these cars. By this time, the stunt team put together a fantastic sequence, including at least 3 crashes, and the pinnacle would be the Saleen getting crushed under a dump truck. One car was designated the hero car. It was a full-blown Saleen with the serial number 00-0201. It was supercharged and had a manual transmission. The second car was also a manual transmission. The third and fourth cars were V6s with no engine modification. The fifth car was the drop car. It had a full roll cage. It too was a V6. As we got it. Now with the cars ready, it was time to set up the choreography for the big stunt. So what they did, they made a diorama on the desk. Everybody have to understand the dynamics and what we're looking for. So to film this scene, they had to break the sequence into parts, starting with the Saleen, catching up to the dump truck and the big rig. Then we see the Mustang bouncing off the other big rig, and then another cut when we switch angles. Then the crew had to mount the Mustang to a device, something like a swing arm or a crane you would call it. In order to do this, they made a coupler on the top of the roof of this Mustang. It had an arm like this, grabs it, and it picks the car up, and it just swings this way and drops it right under the wheels. If you watch the sequence frame by frame, especially on the 4K DVD, in fact, the car was dropped twice. By that time, that car was flatter than my prom date in high school. You can see details like the right rear wheel, which was changed in between shots, pieces of the interior coming out of the car, all that kind of stuff. And when the Mustang skidded to a stop, it was time to reset for this second part of this scene, which of course was the Corvette crash. Yes, the Corvette crash was not an accident. Somebody said that to me a couple years ago. It was part of the plan. What wasn't part of the plan was the Corvette flipping. That was not written into that script at all. Fortunately, stunt director Terry Leonard insisted in equipping the Corvette with the pull strap. A pull strap is something installed on the passenger side, so if the car rolls over, he can put his arm through a loop, a strap, and pull him down under the dash so he doesn't get crushed by the pavement. Fortunately, the stunt driver was not injured at all. We never saw the Mustang again in the movie, and that was the end of that, and it just went away. So what happened to the cars? Car number 87 is now owned by a guy, Nick Y, who goes by 2Fast Saleen 02. The car that was fully crushed was fully restored and then went through Barrett Jackson back in about 2004. It was spotted once more in New York around 2008. The hero car, Saleen 000201, was spotted up for sale back in 2011 or so in Las Vegas. And more recently, again in Las Vegas in about 2020. Another surviving car, we called it second camera car, was sold to a guy in Virginia, last I heard. He also added a Vortec blower. The other Mustangs are a mystery. Don't know where they are. However, if they're intact, these cars would be worth some serious money. So if you find it, let me know. That's going to be it from it this week. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to smash the like button and please subscribe. I'm getting closer to 250,000 subscribers. I'd really like to hit that by the end of the year, and I hope you can help me. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next week.